topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart.
Hello and welcome to It's Your Voice, the show that hosts enriching conversations in diversity. My name is Bahia Yaksan. I am a core alignment coach and a diversity educator. I coach and train individuals and organizations in learning to identify patterns that may not be serving them well. And better than that, we practice stepping out of them and cultivating new patterns of thoughts and behaviors that align better with your values and create more belonging and inclusion, which makes everybody happier. And if you want to check out some sample workshops or courses I teach, you can find them on my website, which is called knowwhatyouvantcoaching.wordpress.com. Thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited. We're going to be talking to two guests today from Cornwall, England, and I'm just absolutely love what they do and what you're about to be introduced to. And I'm going to read a little bit of information. And Paul and Sarah Rutter, thank you so much for being our guests. And you can bring them on camera now while I read about them so people can see your bright and beautiful faces.
Thank you. Hi, Bahia.
It's so nice to have you. And thanks for, we have an 8-hour time difference, and I love that we coordinate it with our engineer Rebel.
Thank you, yes.
And thanks to your son for helping set things up. So the title is called From Trauma to Tranquility, Our Woodland Healing Journey. And just for a little information, Paul and Sarah Rutter are co-founders of Kensey Woodland Sanctuary, a sanctuary for healing in nature located in Cornwall, England. Paul has a passion for the outdoors and hands-on skills in bushcraft, woodworking, and nature-based teaching. And Sarah brings warmth, organization, and a deep care for people's well-being. Hear their story now about how and why they created Kensey Woodland Sanctuary. It's an amazing, powerful story. I'm grateful that you're here willing to share it. And then we'll hear more about the healing power of nature and bushcraft for mental well-being, how you support former military service members and others impacted by trauma. And we'll get into what a typical day looks like and the unique mix of learning and community that you have, that you facilitate, and the peace that such a place offers. And we'll also talk about how to build partnerships with charities and how people can connect with you.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
Welcome again. So good to have you here.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. We'll try and talk as slow as we can because we are very Cornish. So those people, the dear Americans, might struggle slightly with me, but we'll do our very best.
Thank you. And I don't know if you want to jump into this, but when we met on a WhatsApp call a week or so ago, I asked you why, what was the motivation, what compelled you to create an actual sanctuary in the woods. And I don't know if you want to start right there.
I mean, it starts really from my childhood slightly. Was in a way that I lived in a very rural little village. So being outdoors was just part of our natural life. We're 55, so we're of a different generation where people were very much outdoors. And so that's second nature to me, hunting, fishing, general learning to play. I'm not sure whether modern children do this now. But we were just a generation where we were constantly outside building camps and just experimenting with being outside. And then, unfortunately, a few years ago, I experienced quite a vicious attack. Sarah and I were in our local town, just minding our own business, and we were attacked. And 4 young men attacked me, and I was left in quite a serious condition. So part of that needed some quite serious facial injuries. So the attack was, I was eventually beaten, and then I was kicked so hard in the face that it broke my skull clean in half. So I was broken from here, right through here, right through here. And my lower face had dropped and then was pushed back in. Needless to say, I was very fortunate to have a fantastic surgeon that was brought on an emergency basis down from London to rebuild the impact injury, which meant that the surgery was done from the inside, and I was pushed back out and reconnected.
Wow.
Bolted my head back together here, and across here. I have 2 plates here, 8 screws, and rebuilt my nose and my eye socket. And you know, that left us in quite a traumatic state for quite a while. It was a big thing for me to go through. The court process, because after a period of time we had these people and brought them to justice, but that took 5 years, and that in itself was highly complex because it had to go to a big court process, and eventually that process went through, and the main guy that caused the main injury was basically prosecuted for attempted murder. So he went down for 10 years. But for anybody who's been through trauma or was a victim of those sort of brutal attacks, it took me a long time to try and get my head around the emotions that I was going through, not just the physical injuries, but the things that were going on in my head. I'm not a vengeful person, but I was struggling. I was really struggling. But thankfully, I was surrounded by some good friends. And it took me a while, but they said, look, let's get you out. I mean, I ran my own business for 25 years. I'm a furniture maker, joiner. So they said, look, let's get you out of this and get you outdoors and do the things we did when we were younger. So we ended up going on to Dartmoor, which is a small national park in Devon, which is the next county on from Cornwall. And we got back into doing the things that we did when we were younger. And it made a huge difference. It made a huge difference to me to not have those pressures of seeing everyone and it being an everyday conversation, because this process, like I say, took 5 years for us to get our justice. And it left us as 5 men that were well in our 40s, just thoroughly enjoying just reliving those things that we did when we were younger.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and the experience of just having that campfire and just actually being a little bit daft, you know, it's just nice sometimes to take these childlike, these labels, you know, husband, business owner, lots of things, parent and dad, just to sit down with men that you trust and you've known for many years, just to let your hair down a little bit and sort of try and drop your shoulders. And I was shocked, really, how quickly, by the end of the first evening, once that fire was lit and we were cooking away, how the conversation the whole tone of voice changed. You know, they say nature's TV, the fire does, it's almost slightly hypnotic, and it's a beautiful process just to sit there.
Yeah.
And, you know, my background was, my hobby background is weightlifting and powerlifting. And I'm always known as Little Paul because my best mate was Big Paul, and he's a huge guy, and he was with us. My other friend John, who's 6'5" and 25 stone, a big man. And we all just started opening up, you know, the pressures of everyday life. And we were having these really in-depth, meaningful conversations. And it was just kind of lovely because you sometimes you're left too much in your own thoughts and you're the only person going through this. and
Mm-hmm.
you're almost embarrassed to talk about it out loud because you don't know how people are going to react. I was really struggling.
Yeah, especially for men.
Yeah, because I'm, like I said before, I'm not a violent person. I don't have those tendencies. Even though I have a physical background, with my weightlifting and things, it's a hard sport. But that's not who I am to have those. This thing was going on with me all the time. It's an awful thing to admit that someone who did something so bad to you, you wanted to do it back. And I didn't like that. That's not who I am. And thankfully, after the court process, and I had justice, and I'm not sure now, with all these years on, now I'm 55, how I feel about that. I'm a little conflicted, if I'm being honest, because I've had my
okay.
years.
I'm going to interrupt. Can you, because this is so important. And appreciate how you're sharing. I just want to be clear what it was exactly that you felt conflicted about in retrospect. What was the part you were feeling conflicted about mostly?
Well, I think my best times were in my 20s. That period of being 20 to 30, I think probably for most people, it's a really exciting time. It's your most creative time. Hopefully, not too overwhelming and fairly carefree. You're going through your next chapter. You're coming at your teen years and living your 20s. So I was fortunate to have the best time ever in my 20s. I was developing my company, weightlifting, doing competitions every year, and I was just thoroughly enjoying life. I had a good social life, I had great friends. And then this young man who was in his early 20s was then put in prison for 10 years. And this is something that's over the past 5 years I've started to think about. And
I see.
Whereas I'm not sure whether it's just, I can't quite, even now I question many things that go on, whether that is justice. What have I got out of it?
I see.
And what has he got out of it?
But where was the help that he needed for him to do something like that? I often think there's something, he needed probably someone, some support, because you don't go out and do that sort of thing. He was an intelligent guy. We found out he used to we went to university, he was in Spain. He was an intelligent guy. He wasn't a guy I would imagine that would normally do this sort of thing. Unfortunately, I think it was, they get into sort of things they shouldn't get into.
Well,
sort of
drugs and drink and things,
but what takes them on that path as well for them, to do that. So I think I feel the same as Paul. Now I think, what a complete waste, but there has to be a process, and there has to, when you do something like that, if you commit a crime, unfortunately you do have to pay the penalty. But we do talk about that quite a bit now, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, I was living a very difficult 10 years as well. I'm sure his was highly complex as well. I think that's a discussion for lots of people who have their different views on that, and we're still trying to get our heads around it a little bit.
Well, thank you for clarifying that and sharing. Yes, such an important question, and so compassionate. You're thinking that both of you also very much thinking about the perpetrator, so to speak.
I think and then this what leads you on to things, and that process of me going away with my friends sort of opened up that inner child in me again, that longing just to be a little bit free. And then we were lucky enough to have a company that we had for many years, and eventually it came to its natural end, and we sold the business, and it freed us up. And suddenly I've gone from being very focused on a business for nearly 25 years to suddenly being semi-retired. And there's nothing worse than a Paul that's doing that. I'm not very good at doing that. I like to be busy. That's part of my therapy. I'm always busy. So we just literally was on the internet one day, and Woodlands for Sale came up, and we went, wow, that looks great. That's fantastic. That'd be somewhere where my friends can go and enjoy being in the woods, because unlike the United States, Britain is so small, So these areas belong to the National Trust or they're a national park. So you're very restricted to what you can do in them. Now, I'm not too sure what it's like in America, but here, you know, lighting fires and just generally what they call bushcrafting, you have to have a lot of permissions to do that. So we suddenly saw this opportunity to buy this wood and thought, right, we'll do that. Let's do that. And initially it was just about, it'll be great for us, my son and our friends to just go in there and get it. Yeah, to be free. And just light fires and do what you like, you know.
No restrictions, really.
But also obviously understand to look after what we've got and make it better. And within a short time, you know, I was in there, we bought the woods and in I've gone, doing my thing. And within 2 or 3 weeks, I've gone, well, actually, this is a wonderful environment. And I felt very proud that we own this there's only 3 acres of Cornish woodland. There's a lot of hardwood trees. It's got oaks and beech and things in it. And I suddenly felt this need to sort of share it. I just wanted to share it with other people. And I thought this would be a great environment to just let people come in and just hear nature. Because we're on a very private woodland. We're part of what was quite a big estate, which was originally 400 acres and been broken up into 4 little woodlands. And we were lucky enough to buy one of those. So it's very private. People just can't stumble across our woods. It's got private access. So it's
very safe.
Yeah, anybody that's struggling with certain things, you know, if your mental health isn't that great, the last thing you probably want to be is a stranger suddenly walks past with a couple of dogs. So we thought, well, I think this will suit a lot of people. And within a couple of weeks, the ball started rolling, and we were starting to plan how we were going to change the certain aspects of the wood. So I was putting sort of therapy paths in, building ponds, letting a bit more light and opening up certain sections of the wood. And we were trying to make different tones of voice within the woods. So certain areas we've got for camping, which is the tree canopies are still quite thick. So the light is slightly heavier. Maybe makes some people feel a little bit safer. Other areas we've opened right up. We've got more natural light coming through. Other areas are near a stream. So you've got that sort of backtrack of water. And in amongst all this, you've got nature doing its things, the birds, and you know, we've got the 11 o'clock woodpecker, which is hilarious. When we first bought it, it was our coffee time. It was bang on 11 o'clock, the woodpecker would start, and we go, oh, that must be time to have coffee. It's nature saying, slow down, Paul, you're going a bit mad. Sit down and have a coffee. But it's wonderful, you know. We were lucky enough to have a young lady that's also getting a little bit involved in what we're doing. She had her first little stay over with her dog last week, and she had owls all night. Just owls doing their thing, you know. And she said at first it woke her up and it was like, oh, man, that's nature really doing its thing. One owl shouting to the other. And she said after about half an hour, she said it was just hypnotic. You almost felt part of this conversation that was going on. And that's what we haven't experienced that yet because we haven't stayed overnight. And my son was there the other week, and his friends are going there this weekend. So it's already starting to develop, and we're getting feedback from these little groups that start, because we're not officially open yet. We won't be fully open until early spring next year because we're having a cabin built as well. And part of that cabin process is so we can get counsellors and therapists in to have private sessions that we'll hopefully offer. We'll offer guest speakers as well. Because I've only, you know, to me, this is a hobby. I'm not an expert. You know, I've got no counselling experience whatsoever. I'm not a bushcraft expert. You know, I'm the sort of guy that will tie multitudes of knots until eventually it becomes tight. You know,
that's right.
So, you know, and the irony of that is I've been out at sea for 25 years. So
I love it.
You know, but but I enjoy that process. I enjoy sharing the fact that I don't know everything. You know, that's part of the fun. And with the military guys that come in and the ladies that come in with military backgrounds, their skill sets are huge, you know. And I think it's nice for them to come in and maybe with their confidence for whatever reason, maybe a little bit low, and maybe lead And I love to give them the opportunity to just sit with us and say, look, Paul, that's actually not how you do that. And I go, all right, show me that again, and just little things like setting up your camp correctly, how to light fires correctly. I've got all those skill sets, but I love to share those because everyone's got their own way, and everyone sees things differently. My background is woodworking, so I look at trees in a completely different way than a lot of other people, especially my boat building background. And any boat builders out there will understand that our oak trees are beautiful, and they're looking at the branches in a completely different way. There's stems and bough stems and knees, and you're looking at it. So we look at it in a slightly different way, which sounds a bit awful, really, when you look at these beautiful trees and think, oh, I'm harvesting those, but that is what we do. It's not what I do now. We've planted 700 trees in our woods at the moment, which are a mixture of rowan, birch, and then we've got hedging trees that have gone in, which are blackthorn and hawthorn, and we've planted a load of oaks. But in the process of that, we've also had to take out a lot of holly trees, which have gone wild and look awful because they've taken all the light and they're reducing the light coming to the base of the wood. So we've taken out well over 200 of those.
Did you say holly trees?
Holly, yeah.
Okay, I'm not.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay, because I'm familiar with the other ones that you named, but I'm not familiar with that. I'll have to look up what a holly tree, because I'm not familiar with that one.
Well, there's a tree that would be on a Christmas card. So you get the holly, with the holly berry.
Yeah. Okay.
And when they're in their normal sort of left alone state, they're a beautiful tree. But when they're fighting for light, they just go straight up and they go quite chaotic. And then we'll have a sort of detrimental effect on everything else. So we've had to reduce those quite a lot. So I've been fighting quite a few of those, I've got to confess. And then I realised that halfway through the winter, being 55, that I'm not 25, and cutting trees down in part of our woodland is on quite a steep hill. So, you're constantly fighting nature, fighting the slope, fighting the rain. And, I needed to lose a bit of weight. And so I said, anybody who wants to lose a bit of weight, buy woodland, because it's very physical.
I bet.
But we're kind of 80% there now. We're hoping that the cabin will be finished end of next week, and then we can start dressing that. Part of that is going to be kind of like an L shape. So one section has a decking space, which is covered, and I'll have a woodworking bench there. Another section will have a decking space, which will be in front of the cabin, which will also have a covering on it. And Sarah will be doing cooking and sort of more. You hope to set up a sort of table and just have people having coffee, little meet and greets there.
Yeah, we're going to collaborate with a few other people that are doing different projects anyway. We're in contact with ex-army, actually, she is, who wants to set something up for ex-military ladies, actually, veterans, and also ladies of domestic violence, because almost she wants to sort of start something almost like a spa type of environment, but obviously, forest bathing, being in the woodland, being in nature, like she sort of explained to me, usually the people that really need these sort of time out and spa days can't really afford them. So she wants to be able to provide something, and she's been to the woodland a few times and absolutely loves it. She came the other day with her dog, the dog is obviously quite a difficult project. He is quite nervous around people and other animals. So she was able to go into the woodland, just her and the dog, and he just raced around, had a wonderful time, felt so free. And she sent us this wonderful video of him just literally smiling, it looked like he was, because he was good. She could never, it's the first time he was able to do this, to let him off somewhere and knew that he was safe, and she felt safe to do it. So that was wonderful. So it's not just people. I think it's even animals are obviously going to enjoy it. So we want to basically collaborate with people like them that want to come in and they've got their own idea. So they can be in certain spaces of the woodland's big enough to have different zone areas, or for us to be on there on different days. But yeah, I think it's going to evolve. I think it's definitely going to evolve once we get the cabin up. That will be another safe space, or it can be so many. Obviously, it can be used for so many things. We thought it can be like a therapy cabin, but also it can be somewhere where we can just all gather around the log burner and chat, have a coffee, or whatever, really. So I think it is definitely going to evolve once that happens, really. So I'm really excited. Yeah, really excited.
So one of your fortes is to like collaborate and network. It sounds like.
Yes,
build relationships.
Yeah, which has already happened, actually. I mean, as you already know, Borough, we're not very good with the social media thing. Not very technically minded, but we've obviously been thrown into the Instagram world slightly. But actually, it's been so positive. We've had just nothing but positivity that's come back to us. And we've made some really, really lovely friends through that which we've met numerous times now, that have come to the woodland, and they've shared their stories. And what I find, which is really fantastic about it, is you start to talk to people, and then they start talking, especially to me. I am quite a nurturing sort of person. I think I've always been the sort of person that, I don't know if I've got one of those faces, but people will open up to me, even though I don't ask them to. Which is a compliment, obviously. I feel they must feel comfortable. But this happened recently, where I started to talk to someone that came to the woodland, and she was really opening up. And then she said, "Oh, why am I telling you this?" And I said, "Well, which was lovely, actually, because she said, I said, well, I don't know, but everything is confidential. Nothing would ever be spoken outside of this woodland ever." But she said, "No, I felt so relaxed and comfortable. I felt that I could, share with you." And I said, "Well, I just feel quite honoured that you did." So this is another thing about being in nature, isn't it? That you do, you just tend to, I think, relax, and you just feel more at ease, I think, maybe. But yeah, it's been just positive, just really positive. So Instagram, thank you, Instagram. It's actually been really positive. So that's good.
Well, you do have a very strong listening presence. Like the expression on your face is very open. Like your nature is open. And
Thank
I can
you.
see,
Yeah,
I can see why people.
I try.
Before we move on, can you say out loud your Instagram name so people can find you on Instagram?
Yeah, it's just Kensey Woodland. So just at Kensey Woodland. Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's Kensey.
Yeah, Kensey. And then just Woodland.
Okay. And would this be a good time to show some of the? I got to see some photos, and it just looks gorgeous. And you're also Paul's joinery. I don't know if I saw them through my sister or, but it was beautiful, beautiful, incredible woodwork. Furniture is just stunning.
Oh, but you would have seen it if you would have seen it through Dawn. Yes, that's right, of course, because I probably gave her the brochure, didn't you?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I probably did. Yeah.
I mean, my woodworking background. Yeah, I'm just so blessed, really. I mean, I ended up doing an apprenticeship in Crawley in Sussex. So I had to move out of my beloved Cornwall for 4 years, and I worked for the most traditional company that was just incredible. I was so blessed. It had been going for 125 years. It had its own school in-house. And when initially you were full-time in its own school for 1 year, then you went into the joinery shop, and then you were under tuition for the rest of your term. So we had a thing called a man and boy bench. So the old gentleman that was looking after me was a gentleman called Gilbert Ellis. So the woodworking bench was 26 feet long and had 2 vices opposite each other.
Wow.
So he would always keep an eye on you. And I did need keeping an eye on.
Nothing's changed.
I was a little bit lively. And
still lively.
But the standard of workmanship was incredible. I mean, I was just humbled every day by these fantastic gentlemen with these fantastic half-rimmed glasses and their waistcoat and ties and the joiners. They came into work immaculate every day, and it was actually quite frightening, because you were a 17-year-old boy at the time thinking, I'm never going to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
These gentlemen are the absolute elite of woodworking. We were working on Hampton Court Palace, Windsor Castle, some incredible projects. And I was just sort of a little bit daunted, but great teachers calm you down. And Gilbert was a fantastic teacher. He was just the best. and he kept me down. Of course, being a Cornish lad living just on the outskirts of London at the time, I was called Pasty for 4 years, and no one even knew my first name. So, he would just say, less haste, more speed, Pasty. You've got to be able to work in an environment which is tidy and organised. And he got me working in a way that, I was so proud of all my tools, and I'd have them all laid out. And he would look at them, well, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. Move them away. These are the ones you need. Put them there. Everything must be where it should be. You don't have to walk all the way over there to get them. They should be right here. And he taught me about being efficient, about being tidy and respectful of what it is you're training to do. So when you're around those sort of gentlemen, it's just infectious. And by the time I finished my apprenticeship, I was 20. Still learning, of course, we're still learning. But I left Crawley because I didn't enjoy living in Crawley at the time. I needed to come home, and I went straight into super yacht building, and I was there for nearly 9 years, working on luxury super yachts. So that passion for woodworking at the highest order. So harvesting trees, for me, they need that respect, So if you're going to take a beautiful tree down that may have taken 200, 300 or 400 years to grow, you've got to do something special with it. It's about legacies for me, having the pride to make something that's going to last for hundreds of years, And those interiors of super yachts we did were the very, very highest of woodworking. Once again, I was working with elite craftsmen. And then when eventually I left with my business partner, Graham, we started Unique Furniture and Joinery, and we took that same will and want to do the very best into everything we did for the next 20 years. But it was all about nurturing these beautiful trees. So even with my woodworking, I said to Graham, my business partner, right, let's not use any landfill. None of our waste product should ever go into the ground and be buried. So we spent a lot of money on putting a huge recycling plant in, where effectively everything was ground up in-house. All our wood shavings were ground up. It was all pulped up, put into a huge machine, compressed and turned into wood fuel. So then we got into making sure that we then supplied the cheapest form of kiln-dried woodworking, briquetting for log fires and wood burners in the county. So if you're an old age pensioner, we were doing 40 kilos of wood fuel for £10, which was unheard of. That was ridiculously cheap. But it was a way of, once again, nurturing the product. So all these years on, now I'm blessed to own a woodland. I'm looking at my fantastic trees. We've got beech trees where if you and I were cuddling, we wouldn't get round them, Fantastic mature trees that are well over 200-300 years old. So you look at them in a different light.
And clearly you have respect for the earth and nature, and you probably have a deeper appreciation of trees than those of us who've not worked so closely with them.
Well, I may look at them slightly different. I'm not sure whether I appreciate them any more than anybody else, because I think we all understand how vital they are and how wonderful they all are. Maybe I just look at it slightly differently. I see the whole thing and what it is right through. But now I'm really fortunate that I can just sit there and just admire them. And I've got absolutely no interest in cutting these beautiful trees down now. That's my career has ended. I've sort of retired from that. And I'm just thoroughly enjoying
just planting them now.
Yeah, getting the woodlands as healthy as possible. So I watch these trees continue to grow. And with all our little saplings, we've had a very, very dry summer here actually. So we're not sure how well our saplings are going to do. But we can only hope that they do all mature and part of our legacy again, really.
And it sounds like the sanctuary's definitely eco-friendly, as we say, friendly to the ecology. And you, I wanted.
Sorry. One of the main things is trying to let people leave their technology home. I mean, I've never had a mobile phone. As you have witnessed, my computer skills are non-existent. So
I can't tell.
Well, trust me. So we're trying to encourage.
I believe Sarah mentioned it, though.
Yeah. So we're trying to encourage people when they turn up to if they're happy to, just put their phone in a little box and leave
Great.
them there.
Great
To
idea.
look,
So
we're all
important.
safe here. Let's
So
converse and learn the art of conversation again. Let's meet strangers and enjoy that process of getting to know each other and really enjoy the conversation. And everyone's got a story, and everyone's got the right to be heard. And I think it's very important for people to have their opportunity to speak and not be judged. In our woodland, there's no judging. It doesn't matter what you think. You're allowed to discuss it out loud if you want to. You've got the right to do that. I think that's very important. And we may disagree, and everyone, of course we don't all think the same. But what's said in and around that fire will remain there. And we hope that people enjoy that process, because I think in this day and age, and maybe since COVID, we've started to really appreciate what it's like to be with people again. That period where we had that it's awful time, wasn't it, where we weren't allowed to connect with people and have these conversations. Whereas I think now we crave it. We realise how important it is to share our worries and realise that we aren't on our own. And then maybe if you're having a day when the anxieties aren't quite right, or you're not firing all 4 cylinders, someone's there to say, no, it's all right. I can support. Let's wander in the woods and do something together. And I think that in itself, just sharing, somebody's going to be up when someone else is down. In most cases, that's what happens. So that person who's just having one of those days and they just isn't feeling it, hopefully someone else can just step in, say, do you fancy, let's just cook some sausages on the fire, have a cup of coffee, then we'll wander into the woods and come up with something.
I think distraction, because sometimes not everyone can do the literally face-to-face and open up and feel comfortable doing that. And that is quite a difficult thing, I think, for a lot of people, to be fair. I was having a conversation with one of my close friends the other day, and she said her best conversations with her children or boys is when she's driving their passenger, so they don't have to look at each other. And I thought that just really resonated with me. I thought, you're so right. You can have these really difficult conversations and really get to the crux of what might be going on in their lives when you're not actually looking at each other. And I think what we're trying to do at the woodland, with especially having all these, whether we'll do some little woodworking projects, or some of the people we're going to collaborate with and do other things. If you have an activity, I think it does bring people straight away together anyway, but they don't feel that they have to be coming straight out with it straight away. They can do something, and before you know it, you do start to talk about certain things, and you're almost sort of, they're getting counsel without even realizing it, I think. Because you go away, and what we want to do is maybe, especially if they make something, or even like lighting the fire. Most children, not even children, adults, don't know how to even light a fire. I know I didn't. So things, you go away and you think, well, I've actually achieved that today. I actually did that all on my own. It was fantastic. We cooked on it, which is my favourite thing. We all sat around, we chatted. And I think that is just so valuable. It's, that's my most favourite thing, I think, about the woodland, is trying to get people together and just feel relaxed and feel that they can chat without realising it, without feeling that they're under the spotlight, if you were, so hopefully.
So true. That's so true. And something very powerful about cooking on fire. And especially if you create it, you start the fire and you cook together and you prepare together, then that's your focus.
So different. It just tastes so different as well, doesn't it? It's fantastic. Definitely my favourite part, I think. So we're definitely going to be able to offer that as well, I think, hopefully.
Oh, absolutely, you must. It's so appealing. It's so appealing. And you're both really creating the sense of being surrounded by nature, because it is so true. We forget that we are a part of nature,
absolutely.
Ourselves too are part of the natural world.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's so important to just drop all other things, not people, and go into the woods. And sometimes might be people too, but and just feel the vibrations from the trees and smell all the earth and all the plants and
I think it's the sound, isn't it? And I think there's things you're so distracted during your day-to-day lives because we're so busy, all of us, doing what we do. But when you go into the woodland and there's just peace, and then your senses are so heightened that you just zone in onto certain things. Well, what was that? You know, that's the thing I've really found, because I've not really experienced being in a woodland, not since I was a child. And that's been one of the things I've really sort of found.
The smell is an interesting one.
And this just
because that's a good observation, because if you get, I mean, I'm quite often there very, very early. So if we're there at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, the moisture that's still in the woodland, it's just starting to breathe, you know, especially in the spring and the summer. So that's a completely different smell to what it's like if you just turned up in the middle of the afternoon. You know, it's almost breathing and expanding, that you can feel the trees and everything that's doing its thing.
Yes.
But then in the evening, once again, another different smell comes in. You know, and with that becomes your sort of five senses. We're trying to do these. We're hoping to do some full moon walking. I'm trying to encourage people to walk in woodlands in the dark, because I think a lot of people through cinema over the years have got a little bit, I'm never going to walk in the woods in the dark, you know.
True.
The horror movies, that little thing we watched when you was a child, and it spooked you out a little bit. But they're fantastic in the dark, you know. And if you're lucky enough to have a clear sky and a full moon, it's just incredible. You know, there is nothing better.
That sounds so appealing. Let me ask it. Can we show your photos now? And we only have about we only have about 6 minutes left, so I want to make sure people get to see the pictures.
Right? Yeah, I've no idea are we in control of this or something?
Rebel will show the pictures.
Oh, fantastic!
If you could just tell us a little bit about this.
Well, this little area, when we first moved into the woods, we put a gazebo up just because it rained so heavily. So because we bought it in November, so the first 3 months it was just raining continuously. So we had to put up a quick shelter, and we had a little fire pit outside. So that was our main thing. That was the most important thing to get it. Because Sarah spent most of her time slipping over in the mud.
Every single day.
So
wellies, always fell over in wellies. Who invented wellies? They're absolutely useless footwear. That's my excuse. Every day I fell over. But it was a very, very wet November.
It was.
Are there other pictures? I'm not sure if Rebel was able to access any other photos.
I'm not sure. That was part of our brochure, but I'm not sure if Rebel can get into that or not.
Looks like that's what we have. It's a nice tease. It's a nice tease.
Yeah, sorry. Once again, to people out there.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Trying to get this going, so.
No worries.
They can see if they follow us on Instagram at like Kensey Woodland, they'll be able to see. There's lots of actually lovely photos.
Beautiful photos, and there's a few odd videos of me doing potentially hazardous things with. There has been the odd conversation about health and safety and how to take trees down safer than the way I've been doing it. But sometimes you just got to do what you've got to do.
Wow. And we need some videos of Sarah cooking or getting the fire going.
There are a few.
Yeah. The legendary burgers are becoming quite the thing now.
Yeah.
One of those strange processes, we've got a fantastic farmer that's just got a huge organic farm. Literally 2 acres away. Everything's grass fed. Mainly sheep and beef. So we're already saying, well, you know, we will come to you for our meat. Buy direct from you. He said, absolutely. He said, put your order in whenever you want. You can bring your guests down, and I'll explain to them how modern farming, you know, good quality farming is done, the way we nurture our animals. This is the great thing. Once I think people are in that mindset,
it starts, doesn't it?
The world comes to you almost. You know, that bit of positivity, people come to you and you're drawn to it. So just little things like that crop up all the time at the moment. People just get on board. It's lovely.
Yes, you already are attracting a lot of people, and more will come. I wanted to ask really quick, we have like about 3 minutes. So I want to give you a chance to say your closing thoughts, but beforehand, I wanted to just find out how big is the cabin? Like, what is, you mentioned a couple ways it could be used. I'm just curious, is it a cabin?
Yeah, effectively it's 3 10 by 12 foot units. A cabin is no bigger than someone's small lounge or double bedroom. That's all we really need, because those spaces are really to be a little bit more intimate. So if we have a counselling session, they can do one-to-ones in there. The other build zones, the other decks, and these will be, as soon as it's finished, we'll upload these videos and photographs so people get a better understanding of what we're trying to do. Our recreational areas, and then the other small deck area will have my woodworking bench on, which is enough room for like 6 people to work around it.
Wow.
And I'll be teaching people how to make walking sticks and hooks and little weird things that they'll just see in the woodland, and we'll say, right, well, let's make a coat hanger, you know. But for somebody who's never ever done anything with woodwork, never used tools before, I've got to be mindful that we've got a project that's got to be quick, you know, that hopefully they can take away with them.
And then with the other side, we want to have it, like we were talking earlier, I want it to be probably more of an open sort of area where we can bring in sort of for doing mindfulness and doing some Reiki, some outside massage. So that'll be a bit more of a sort of different zone again, a bit different feel, different ambience, I think. So that'll be a slightly different away from the cabin as well. So again, private, and where we want to hopefully, you know, offer some of the people to come up and try that as well, hopefully. So
I can feel the vibrations from across the sea.
you must come over. You must
I'm so. Thank you. I think I will. I imagine I will. I was just describing it to my daughter, and she was like, "Oh, Mama!" And you must come here.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you a chance to just say your closing remark before I thank everyone. And I'm sorry, I want to spit out one more thing. I love that you have a focus on women from military healing, also in domestic violence. There's not enough sanctuaries for anyone, but I love that you're so inclusive. You're so inclusive.
Yeah, definitely. That's right.
It's got to be for everybody.
It's got to be for everybody.
You know,
and trauma comes in so many different. You know, it can be, you know, grief of a family member. You know, a divorce. You know, trauma comes in so many forms. You know, and we all get affected by different ways. So this is open to everybody, anybody, you know, so that's what we're trying to achieve, really. So
yeah, I'm trying to get involved. My mum was a foster parent for many years, so we're looking to work with local foster agencies as well, bringing foster families and children in, because a lot of children, like I say, don't know how to play.
Yes.
They've never built a den, never built a little thing in the woods. And I think it'd be lovely, like that little dog who was just running around, just thoroughly enjoying the space.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than watching a young person just running around, kicking the leaves in autumn, you know, picking up branches and seeing where they can make a little shelter. These are really important things. And then they'll start to appreciate, and they'll have the memories that I've had. So when they're our age, they'll hopefully pass those little things on. Just enjoying playing is a really, really important thing to all of us on our culture. You know, we as the older people now, should make these spaces for people. That's all I've got to say, really. It's a lovely thing. We should share these spaces. No, it's not about I own this and it's mine. We're looking after it for however long we're here, and hopefully we'll leave it in a better condition than we found it. And then whoever has it after us will continue to do something with it.
That's so beautiful. Well, I mean, thank God you've recovered. Thank God you have Sarah. Thank God Sarah has you. And that you have created this beautiful sanctuary for the world. And wow, it sounds incredible. And I love all of your compassion and thinking of so many different, you know, people, young and old, from all kinds of backgrounds. And it's wonderful to meet you.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you.
Oh, me too. So am I.
It's been great. Thank you for having us.
Oh, what a pleasure. What a pleasure. And I would just also want to thank our listeners and viewers for joining us today, and to say, please tune in next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Talk 4 TV or W4CY. And thank you, Rebel, and our producer, Dean. And may we all have enriching conversations in diversity this week. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. articulate speech, inarticulate speech.